T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
You are now tapped into the coolest reptile podcast in the world. Welcome to the very first Tuesday nights, All Up in the Tree Tuesdays. Very first guest we have is Greg Maxwell from Greg Maxwell Reptiles. Yeah, the man, the great and powerful. Sitting down with me and my two new co-hosts who I'm about to drop in just a minute. But what's good, everybody? I'm your boy, MJ. How's everyone doing out there? This is your first time hanging out with us. If you're into keeping reptiles, learning about them, learning how to breed, all the historical stuff of reptiles, and this is the place to be, man. Fun place to learn. I'm having a fun time, all right? But, man, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, select all. You'll be on top of every single podcast. You can listen to Trap Talk Reptile Podcast on all the major audio platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google, all the main ones, okay? So don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Wherever you listen to this podcast, thank you so much. Really means a lot, you giving the guests I bring on the time of day to hear them out, because these are all important people to me, for sure, 110%, but I'm not the only one who thinks that. So thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for spending your life with me. It's awesome. It's a great time to grow with everyone here. Shout out to the early birds. Get to you guys in a minute, but let's go and get to the tonight's sponsors. Tonight's sponsor is Gary Shavino, GS Reptiles, my favorite YouTuber, only because diversity is my thing. If you were to ask me what kind of reptiles I keep, I'm going to ask you how much time you have. And I have friends on that same type of level, like my man GS Reptiles, who's been doing it for quite a while. But if you want to talk about learning and having fun and not worrying about like not having fun, this is your guy right here. Go follow his content for me, please. It means a lot. First and foremost, Instagram, type in GS Reptiles, and then on YouTube. All right. Drops to YouTube, not as much as he should be, but I'm not going to give him pressure right now. I'm just saying, maybe if the subscribers go up, he'll start dropping more content. GS Reptiles on YouTube. Thank you, Gary Shavino. I appreciate you so much for your support and just everything you do for the industry. You're a huge inspiration to many, many, many of us. That being said, behind me, a huge inspiration, because Focus Cube Habitats built what's behind me. This wall of enclosures, the wall of focus, as I call it, all 3x2x2s, PVC built enclosures by Focus Cube Habitats. Flex in Texas all day, every day. You cannot go wrong, especially if you just want to look nice, for sure. Thank you, Steve and Ashley, to the hardest working couple when it comes to the caging side of the industry. And nobody's doing it like these two. I'm telling you right now, this is the future right here. Still lots more to come, please. So go check out what they have going on. Go to their website, Focus Cube Habitats. And again, go follow them on Instagram and Facebook. Shout out to Steve and shout out to Ashley. Last but not least, this episode is brought to you by Freedom Breeder, #1 stainless steel racks in the United States. Shout out to Jesse. Shout out the entire Freedom Breeder crew. But if you've got a rack and it's a Freedom Breeder rack, pat yourself on the back, because that's the professional side of reptile keeping. Doesn't get better and fresher than Freedom Breeder since the 90s. All right, guys, listen, at the end of the day, it's all about US ARC. Let's support US ARC. It's super important. Gold member podcast right here. And it's very important that we have what we need to protect our rights by these animals that we love. And we love these animals. And who the hell is going to take away these animals from us? Nobody's. But we need to come together on this. So please consider becoming a US ARC member if you have not already. Information on US ARC is in the link in the description below. So click on it, become a member. The numbers are important. So please join US ARC today. And of course, how could I forget the biggest news to hit the show scene? Shout out to the holiday show. That's the Reptile Breeder Show, happening December 9th, Saturday on December 9th, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. This is a free show. If you just go to reptilebreedershow.com and RSVP, free show. All right. You and as many guests as you want can roll up into this show for free. Worst case scenario, if that's too much to ask as far as going to the website, $10 at the door. All right. But I cannot wait to see and experience a new show on the West Coast because that's my home, and we could definitely use some more shows. Shout out to the early birds. I'll get to you guys in a second, but my co-host, the mayor of Condrotown, Bill Stiegel, in the building, and then of course we have Marshall motherfucking Mendez. What's up, boy?
What's up? What's
Dude,
up? What's up?
Didn't get the memo about the shirt. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Whatever, Bill. You're not going to bowl with us tonight, so I'm just kidding.
Feeling strong, though. Oh.
Dude, what's good, guys? How are you?
I'm good, man. Excited to get this going.
Yeah. So how you feeling, Bill?
First time's always the best, man.
Definitely. Bill, it's like I want to bring Bill back in to, because I mean, let's be honest. You started GTP Radio. What year was that with Buddy? What year did you guys start the first show?
I don't even know. Probably 2012. Yep, 2012. 11 years now.
That is insane to think about. Guys talking about what we're going to be talking about in 2012. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, a lot of the players were the same, including one of my mentors, Marshall Mendez.
Yeah.
Ah,
It's pretty iconic.
yeah.
Yeah, and Marshall, you know, do you remember, you know, you listening to like Reptile content as far back as 2012 and whatnot?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I actually did the music intro to GTP Keeper Radio.
You did the music intro. Okay, hold on.
That's my,
How did that go down? I'm curious.
that was my my band at the time.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's
We
that's
We
a
haven't
history.
upgraded. We haven't upgraded in 11 years.
Oh, I should have.
No way, man. It's epic.
Maybe some things aren't meant to be upgraded, though. You know what I'm saying? Maybe, you know, I will say though, if you have a cage that's deteriorating and or is there some sort of odor, you might want to upgrade that. But when it comes to branding and whatnot, or you know, certain intros, I mean, let's be honest, my intro is iconic, which we're about to drop right now. I don't think I ever want to change that, so I don't think you should change yours, Bill. Leave that shit OG, player.
Hell no, we're not going to change it.
Yeah, guys, what do you got? What do you have to say about Greg Maxwell as far as, you know, having him back at the Trap? You know, me and Marshall have had the pleasure of speaking to him. Bill, were you around for the because I know you came in at some point during the Trapsgiving. Did you have a time? Did you talk to him?
Left. He left a few minutes before I got on. So
perfect. All right. So this is another reason why I thought it'd be great to bring Greg back on, because Greg, you know, I caught him in the middle of his fucking college football game. It was college football day, you know, and some people are like, you don't mess with those days. But he did take some time out of that day to speak to us. It was very brief. So, you know, if I can get more Greg Maxwell, I'm going to get more Greg Maxwell. You feel me?
I can't.
100%.
Can't wait.
Have you ever spoken to Greg like on GTP Radio? I can't remember if that's been one of your guests before.
Oh yeah, for sure. He was
Okay.
on relatively in the early years. He was.
All right. Well, you know what? I want to get this going. I want to say shout out to everyone in the early birds, the chats. If you guys think that tonight's episode is worth of any super chats, or if you want to bring an important topic or question, if you think what you have is more important than what we have, then drop a super chat. All right, and we'll share it, and we'll get that super chat. But are you guys ready to just rock and roll, man? I'm ready to bring Greg on. I don't know about you guys, but I'm
Let's do it.
so stoked for this first episode, and you guys should be too, because it's that time to do what you got to do to get your mind right. Do what you got to do to stay hydrated. Episode 418, but this is the very first All Up in the Tree Tuesdays with Greg Maxwell. Let's go. Choo! You ready for do more in the future? Trap Talk podcasts?
Yes.
Man,
Only Trap Talk. Exclusive.
Yes.
Tell 'em.
exclusive. Oh,
So stop calling us.
Scrub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the crop, gotta love it or not. I'm hot from the hop to the scrub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the scrub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the scrub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the scrub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with everybody, we do it. Everybody, we do it. Do it. Do it. Do it.
And we're live, and he's back. Greg Maxwell, Reptiles. What's up, Greg?
Hi, guys.
Hey,
Dang.
Greg.
What's up, Greg?
All right,
How's it going?
right off the bat, we're making history. This is the most clearest picture we've ever had of Greg Maxwell on Trap Talk. This is epic. Yeah, all right. We're going good right now, guys. Man, can you hear us okay, Greg?
Yep.
All right, man. How you doing this evening?
Doing good, thanks.
Thanks for being here. It means a lot.
My pleasure.
Did you ever get tired of speaking about green tree pythons?
No.
It's okay, Greg. You can be honest, for real. So you've never been tired at all, not once?
Don't ever remember being tired of talking about snakes in general and chondros in particular.
Man, how's it feel to be back into it? Like, I remember I spoke to the very first episode. You were just like getting back into ball pythons. And then I know we spoke after, but I'm curious, how are things right now in the meat of things? How do you feel, and how's the collection? Let's get to that.
Yeah, it feels good. Got my little group of ball pythons going, and got a few locality specific Okie horns that I've loved those things for decades, and have a special little green tree python that Bill was gracious enough to give to me after I helped him get a few problem feeders going. So everything's good.
And people ask why they call him the mayor. Actually, nobody really asked that, to be honest, but that's such a great player and mayor move there, Bill. I mean, but if I could do that for Greg, I would too. You kidding me?
It was an awesome story. So, like, this last year, I hatched out a good number of green trees, and a lot of them came like at the same time. I mean, like within a few weeks of each other. And so my tolerance level was pretty low for messing with them. And so just on a total whim, I said, I wonder if Maxwell would just combination of help me out, want to get back in the game a little bit, just, see if he'd want to just mess around with these. So I contacted Greg. He said, hell yeah. How many do you want to send? And I said, well, I'm going to send 4 really pretty shitty little Neos.
Pre-established.
No, the opposite of that.
Oh.
And, so I sent him these 4 things I couldn't get to eat.
Oh wow! Oh shit! Okay.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They were little bastards. I just so I sent them up there relatively quick. And Greg took them on, and we were both, I think, really happy that he got 2 of the 4 to transition. And after many months, really, what, Greg, 4 or 5 months?
Yeah, something like that.
I said, man, pick the one you like the best of the 2 that he got going, and he did, and he sent the other one back to me. And so it's a pretty cool story. So I can say I'm the one who got Greg Maxwell back in the game.
That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's well fitted, to be honest. Hey, Bill, why don't you answer this question real quick, and we'll keep it moving.
I know I mean, you answer it.
I gave Bill the mayor title. All right, that's me. You're looking at it right there, baby. But honestly, bro, it's because you just connect to people. Like, I've seen the mayor term came to me after your very first party you invited me to, which was 2 years ago, over 2 years ago, I want to say, right?
Yeah.
So you just have this way of bringing people who've never met you before. Like, you just connect to them, bro. Connect them to the point where they are ready to take on, such a feat as the green tree pythons, which, isn't really necessarily a crazy thing to do as far as keeping goes. A lot of struggles, heartache comes from breeding and all that, right? But if you got the keeping side down, it's very easy. I think less maintenance in a ball python. I really do. Like, I do less shit cleaning with my chondros than I do with as far as having to attend to the ball pythons. You know what I mean?
The great thing, and we kind of got the party at my place started here really together. In fact, I think it was your idea. Bill, why don't you have a party before every NARBC? And I said, all right, that sounds good.
Yeah.
So we got some people here really diverse. That was the key. Like, we got people, a lot of diversity in the reptile. We had the ball python guys meeting the green tree guys and vice versa. And it just, it was just really a good group of people from the get-go. And then, we've evolved, expanded, had so many people through the door in the last couple of years. So
if there's anyone out there who's had like Bill Fugel party FOMO, whoa, what was that? that me? Okay. If there's anyone out there who's had like Bill Stiegel party FOMO, I want to tell you right now that this right here potentially would be a backyard conversation type Bill Stiegel party moment. Greg hasn't been to a Bill Stiegel party, but Marshall has. Okay.
I have, yeah.
And the beauty about that is just the conversations that flow around the whole night. Okay. So we're going to pretend that we're in Bill's backyard right now. We have Greg with us. Okay. This is how epic tonight's going to be. And what I want to get out, it's jumping in my head. What I want to talk to you right off the bat, Greg, is the first move you made when getting in those snakes from Bill. Okay. Because Bill, I feel like you're not so easy to be like, let me send this to someone to go eat. I feel like you tried really hard with these snakes. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I gave it, multiple shots.
Okay.
And, so I knew I wanted to send a group out because I've done it before. Buddies has taken a group of poor feeders for me before and has helped me out. And I just thought it would be fun to even ask. I really had no expectation that he would agree. I mean, I thought it was about a 10% or less chance that he'd even want to do it. But
and Greg said on my show before, he likes challenges like this. Greg, you feel like you could get almost anything to eat. You said this on the show before. So I'm curious, what was the take on this when you got them in?
I just fed them and they ate. No. Actually, the first thing I did was I drove to the local Rural King. You guys have those? It's like a farm outdoor, place. And I talked him into selling me a chick. Normally, they don't sell individual chicks. I think you have to buy a group of 6, state law or something. But
wow.
Talked him into selling me a chick because I knew that I was going to want to use some chick down for scenting. And I think I got one of the 4 to eat on the first attempt. The second one I got to eat on the second attempt, but after I rigged up a little trick that my 66-year-old brain's drawing a blank. Al Zulich.
Okay.
Trick that Al Zulich showed me a long time ago, where I get like a cardboard box that's maybe 18 or 20 inches tall and poke a couple of holes in it to hold a perch and feed the snake hanging inside that box so that when it grabs the food, it has to hang in the air and it can't hit the bottom of the tub. And that works.
That's a great trick.
Yeah. And so I got the second one to eat using that little technique. And once I got it to eat 3 or 4 meals doing that, then it would eat in the tub. The third one seemed to have some kind of a weird neurological thing that got worse over time. It would drop off the perch and roll around, and it didn't act right. And of course, I kept Bill updated and said, I think this one's got something wrong with it. And we both agreed at a certain point in time when it just was very obvious this snake was very ill, that I euthanized it. And then the fourth one I thought was going to make it. It ate 2 or 3 times and then just promptly rolled after a meal for no apparent reason.
Had that happen for sure.
Yeah.
What's your
first two, the first 2 were not too difficult. And after that, had a meal a week. And after I felt like, they were both ready to go and wouldn't pose any particular problems, I let Bill know they were ready to go. And he very, very graciously gifted one to me. And, it's obviously just for that reason alone, I prize it.
Well, Greg kept the red and sent me the yellow back.
Of course.
I'm just joking.
That had nothing to do with
I would never send Greg a yellow baby. No. You fucking had me going. I thought you really did. I was like, Bill. I thought Bill.
That's what I would do.
I was like, I thought Bill would do that to people he doesn't like. I'm so confused right now. I was like, why would he do that to Greg? But okay. So hold on. I got questions because Bill, how many clutches, or excuse me, how many babies out of that clutch that we're talking about that you sent to Greg? You remember?
Well, they were babies from I think 2 or 3 different clutches.
Oh, so the different clutches that you sent.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. So these are just out of everything, these were the worst eaters. Is what
Yeah,
you
these were some.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
Greg, I mean, help me remember. I know it was at least 2 different clutches. I think maybe 3.
Yeah, they just came with numbers.
Yeah.
I didn't get any pedigree data or anything with them.
It was either 2 or 3 clutches. So yeah, so basically I just sent them the real ones, I was having a lot of trouble with.
All right, guys, this is the first time I'm hearing about this little trick about them not touching the ground.
I have a picture of it on my Instagram account.
I'll pull it up right now. Is this a trick that you typically go to with almost anything that's dropping? Because you do have a lot of snakes that just wrap and drop. Is that due to them feeling the ground, you think?
It can be. When Al showed me this trick, I was brand new. I just hatched out my first clutch.
Wow.
And was having trouble getting them to eat like everybody does.
Okay.
And so I was out in Maryland for a show and was talking to Al about it. And so he invited me to come over to his house after this weekend show was over. And he demonstrated the technique to me. Honestly, I haven't had to use it very much over the years, but it can be a great trick when you get an animal that will strike and grab and wrap up, but then immediately releases when it hits the bottom of the tub.
Do you know where on your page do you have this video at?
It's not a video. It's just a picture of the box setup.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, sweet. Okay. Wow. Damn.
And after the snake swallows, you just pull the perch back out of the box and stick it in the back in its tub.
Now, I would always, with my luck, ever doing anything as far as touching them while they're trying to consume, they drop right. They'll drop it. But I don't know. I mean, Marshall, you've used this technique before?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Greg, I learned it from Greg, years and years ago. It's just like the sensation of something touching them. So it could be the ground. It could be, any type of movement. Really, you give them, if they take it, best thing you can do is just sit there perfectly still and not move. I've had them, where I like just nudge the box a little bit. That'll make them drop. A shadow of me moving will spook them. But yeah, any that I have that will grab and wrap, but not finish, I'll try this. I don't use a cardboard box. I just use like a taller tub where they won't where they can dangle and not hit the bottom.
Yeah.
I think we can all relate to that story Marshall said about, not moving. I have spent countless hours or minutes at a time just like this.
Frozen, yeah.
Frozen, just literally frozen, where it strikes, it wraps, it starts to eat. And sometimes, I'll just, my tongs in a hand, and I'll just be like this for, seems like freaking forever, but literally until it eats the entire thing. Because even if it gets it halfway down and you move or disturb it.
Yeah, right back up.
Right back up. And you just go, holy shit, I just spent 15 minutes or 20 minutes trying to get this thing to eat. And then I decide to move, now. So many lessons we learn.
And that being said, Greg, with your many years of experience, do you always feel like trying this method or any kind of offering to a struggling neonate, have it be at nighttime? Do you always feel like that's your best bet at night?
No, I actually seem to get my best results in the late afternoon.
Yep.
Wow.
They get really active at night, and I don't know. I always had best success kind of disturbing them. Kind of
seems like once they're on the prowl, it's too late.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they just get defensive when you come at them with something. Versus if they're on the perch and you tap them and you kind of maybe startle them a little bit, that seems to get their attention better. But if they're crawling around the tub, you might as well skip it and go on to the next one.
100%.
Yeah. Right. And then with an animal, okay, how long had it been since this snake had a meal, or was this snake being assist fed before you shipped it off, Bill?
I think I said earlier, I got these in Greg's hands pretty early. And a lot of that was just the fact of the volume that I was looking at when I looked at the baby rack. And I was like, I do not want to, assist feed these right now. I kept others that I did. I didn't want to send him, more than 4. I mean, I had a few others that I was assist feeding and working with and very diligent with, but I got these to Greg pretty quick.
Yeah, and then Greg, there's so many different like approaches to frequencies and with meals. Now you get a snake like this to take its first meal on your hands. How quick are you giving it the next meal? Like, what's your take on that?
About once a week.
Okay.
The first few meals, it always seems like, their digestive tracts are getting accustomed to pinkies. The defecations are real smeary, and you always have to be mindful of prolapse and all that stuff. So I like to give them a week in between. And I think that's often enough that you're getting nutrition into them and that they actually remember or get conditioned to the positive experience they had before. But not so often, that you're just kind of pushing it too much.
So you mentioned that you have the best luck in the kind of dusk hours, but if that doesn't work the first time, you trying at night, you trying during the day, you kind of staggering how you, what time of day you offer?
Well, when I had, multiple clutches, I was, feeding 50, 60, 70 babies or whatever a season. I always started feeding about 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and I would finish up, by 3, 4, 5 o'clock. I perfected the technique of the slow motion creep away.
Oh yeah.
We mentioned, if they see you move, it's over. But I did find out that, and I can kind of demonstrate here, but if you very slowly kind of.
Wow, not like that, right? Not like that.
That's too fast.
He's gone. What the hell happened? Yeah, this is great, though. This is 2 examples on what to do and what not to do. So that was perfect. Way to go, Marshall. He'll come back. But I get it. I get it. But go ahead. Continue, Greg.
Yeah, you can sneak out to where you get. There he is.
Sorry. Yeah, I was trying to demonstrate the slow motion creep away and pull my phone off the thing.
But once you get out, where the snake can't see you, I actually, sometimes would crawl away on my hands and knees, just to get out of the immediate area. And then I would go, do computer work or whatever and set a little timer for 5 minutes and, then go back and kind of, creep back in and go on to the next one. And that I always had my best success. I don't think I ever tried to feed at night because they're active on the prowl. It just never seemed to work for me.
That makes so much sense.
I would work, with low lighting, but in the afternoons.
Right.
Patrick made a very similar comment to yours, Greg's, about the slow creep away. The other thing that I found is sometimes you can, if you have it available and ready, put a paper towel over the tub, not close it, don't try to move it.
Oh, got it. Just cover it.
Over so then it can't see you, and then you can move over to the rack a little bit, one side or the other, and keep working.
But don't put a paper towel and go make yourself some coffee or some shit. Like you got to stay there, right?
Oh hell yeah! Listen, you're going to be there for a while anyway. Might as well block out a couple hours of your afternoon.
But it at least gives you the ability to cover that tub and like move on to the next one, as opposed to just having to sit there, doing nothing.
Yep, and you'll get to judge like when you can cut corners, like when you can go for the paper towel move. Or if it's like the first time that's ever eaten after you've assist fed it 4 times and it's taken 3 heads and it finally wraps and starting to eat, you don't fucking move a muscle until that thing is completely eaten.
Yeah. But man,
and then you go tell your wife it finally ate.
And she'll give 2 shits. Okay, sure. Did you get paid? No, I'm just saying it ate. So many different also ways to kind of bump up meals, right? And I don't want to get into just yet the talk of going to rats or keeping mice, but just even with mice, obviously is what you start to conjure with. When do you feel like upping the size, and when do you feel like it's appropriate to do that, Greg?
It's just kind of an instinct thing and experience. I always try to err on the small side rather than on the large side. I just now started to increase the size of the pinkies that I'm giving to the one that I got from Bill. And it's been, how long now, Bill? 7-8 months?
Yep.
Did you ever notice when you were switching large numbers of them? Obviously, with just a sample size of one now, it wouldn't mean much. But where I've always found that once you get them on something with hair, the prolapses seem to be reduced. Like they prolapse more often when they're feeding, when you're giving them just pinks. So I've always tried to get them on fuzzies, just something with a little bit of fur on it, just to make the poops less runny, and have them. They've got a little bit of something to them. You ever notice that?
To be honest, I never really had that much trouble with prolapse and neonates. Like everybody, I'd have an occasional one, but I never had it often enough where I felt like, okay, I need to adjust something here. But yeah, obviously, the sooner you can get them onto fuzzies, you've got better bone structure, and which more calcium and just a better food animal. So yeah.
The one thing I noticed, and Greg, I know you use this, but this is the first year I've ever done it, is feeding ASF pinks.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at an ASF pink, it's got hair on it.
Yeah, it's a little Kenny Wolf. But isn't that too big? You don't think it's too big, Bill? It's a day one?
Yeah, from day one, it's probably a little big. Although I don't know, I wasn't able to get my hands on day one.
Your Neo's on an ASF day one pink.
Is that right?
Yeah, the red one that you made this year. It's already on ASFs. Fantastic.
And then those things have little strands of hair much earlier than mice pinks do.
Yes. Yeah. We're gonna poke the fire at this right now, because I don't want to say intentionally this is what's going on with people promoting certain like rodent preys as far as dieting goes. Especially in the ball python game, there's a huge push on either doing ASFs or RHACS or whatever, right? I think diversity is awesome. I think if you could do all of them, it's important, right? But if we really look at it, nutritional wise, right? Like, would you say that rat would be the most fattiest thing out of all three of those rodents that you could feed to your chondro? Would it start like possibly the rat being the worst thing you could feed a chondro out of all three of those things, you would say, Greg?
I don't really know. I think if you feed your rodents a high quality, high protein food, they're going to be a healthy prey animal. That's all I ever fed, mature chondros was rats.
And then what do you feed your ball? We're not going to get into this too long. Relax, Marshall. Okay, I'm just curious. What are you feeding your ball python? Are they on rats?
They're on rats. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And by the way, give me a tip to go to live. When I was on your podcast last year,
right?
And that's helped a lot.
Say that one more time. I got to hear. I'm gonna glow.
You recommended I switch over to live prey for my ball pythons?
Oh yes, just as far as like timing and getting them to eat more frequently. Yes.
Yeah, that's helped a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Marshall does live. I mean, right? You do live, right, Marshall? As far as you're feeding your.
I do live up until they're like what I would consider a sub-adult, and then I just do pre-killed. So it's like fresh killed. I just gas them and then immediately feed them off.
Oh, so that's basically alive almost.
Yeah, pretty much. And I only do that because if I don't if I want to go to bed before I check them all, I don't want to leave a live rat in there overnight. That if it's already dead, I don't have to worry about it. Just come back in the morning and check them or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I can't live by there's no statistics that I could prove this. But I know from my experience, if I drop a live rat with a ball python overnight, that ball python's not gonna have a fucking hole in it. There are possibilities of getting scratches. I've seen that, like especially on a white snake, you could see a white snake kind of get fucked up, and you're like, oh wow, what happened there? But also that could happen from it getting wrapped and it killing it. But it is a lot easier not to have to worry about throwing a live rat in there. I'll tell you that much, because life does happen, especially being a new dad. Fucking forget to go check that tub every now and again, and that's why it's not always good to have live. But he's an OG. He ain't forgetting anything. I feel like Greg's on top of that, right? Greg, you're on top of your live feed, right?
I have a little system I use with tape on the tubs. And as soon as a snake eats, I switch the tape. And so I know immediately when I'm looking at my racks, which ones have live rats in them that haven't been eaten yet. And I make sure to remove all the live rodents before my feeding session's done. I don't leave them in there overnight.
Yeah, that's a good call. Now I want to get back to the the rodent prey size, especially for a neonate. One of the things that I thought what was like a symptom of why my chondros prolapsed that 1 year, where I think it was last year at this point, was because they had a bunch of like smeared shits. And I thought, well, maybe that's a sign of something going wrong with it because there's a bunch of smeared shits. But smeared shits is kind of normal and common for a neo. You guys would always say.
Definitely.
Yeah,
It is. Yeah, that's why I like getting them with something with a little roughage on them.
With as far as the fur or whatever,
And that's completely anecdotal evidence. Like I don't really know if that. It just seems like because I've had a lot of problems with prolapses. I say a lot. Every year I'm going to have a couple. And keeping them on water when they're babies has helped that a lot. Versus just in a bowl. I think they get dehydrated and that has something to do with it. And then, getting them up to size. I usually feed, try more than once a week. Maybe if it's every 5 days, just depends on the animal, but I'm trying to get them up to fuzzy size as soon as I can, as fast as possible.
I agree with Marshall. I can't think of a single neo that's prolapsed once it's gotten to the fuzzy mouse stage. That may just be a consequence of getting 20 meals in them, or but I agree with Marshall 100%. That prolapse window for me is usually the 5th to 15th meal, somewhere in there. If they're going to prolapse, that's usually where it happens.
I'm doing my best to just like let the whole prolapse experience thing go, but I can't. So I always try to think like, well, what could have this been? And if you remember correctly, Bill, when you were visiting my place, this clutch that prolapsed on me, I had them in I remember I had 2 different rooms. I had the trap outside and then I had my podcast room inside the house. Yep. And then I had my neonates, my hatching inside the house, right? Inside the podcast room, which I don't know. I don't want to say it was cold in there, but I do know that I remember I kept the back heat like on 84. I've heard recently Christian Stewart was somebody who like prefers hotter temps for his neonates because that prevented a lot of prolapses for him. And I'm not sure if that's accurate. And I don't know if that's how on point that is, but can temperature be a huge part of why things prolapse? Like the whole temperature thing of being not having too much of heat, not enough heat for it to digest the meal or something like that. Could that cause prolapse?
I think we could second guess ourselves all night about that.
Sure. Yeah.
Greg has not had a lot of issues with prolapse. I would say I've had more than my fair share of issues with prolapse. Excuse me. But I've done everything the same. I've tried to modify a few things to see if I could get it under control. But I think the bottom line is we could second guess ourselves. Feed these things at an appropriate meal size, appropriate timing. Keep their heat at an appropriate amount. Try to do everything you can to prevent dehydration. And then, whatever happens, just happens. And I can tell you some prolapses. I had my first clutch this year that I had more than half the clutch prolapse.
Oh, what? That happened to you this year?
Yeah, this year.
Well, what clutch was that? The last clutch?
Fortunately, it was the second to last clutch. It was one of my higher end freight train clutches.
Of course.
Freight train, of course. Freight train produced 2 clutches this year, and the second clutch that he produced, out of the 12 babies, 7 prolapsed.
I don't feel too bad. Sorry, I'm not trying to say. I'm just saying that sucks, Bill. But honestly, now I feel a little better. Thank you for telling me that.
Well, I mean, it just is what it is, and to me, that's an example of not just a random one baby out of the clutch prolapses. This was, and I could tell after the first couple prolapsed, I could predict the ones out of the clutch that were going to by the way that they perched
Mm.
They perched abnormally. They spent more time on the ground than Neos normally do. And I could just predict, like, okay, I bet you that one prolapses, and sure enough, they did. So in that example, in that clutch, I think that was an anatomic issue. I don't know if it was genetic between the parents causing, some kind of anatomic abnormality. But, it was a lot more than just the random, one prolapse in a clutch here and there.
Yeah, and I know that there's not much you can do about certain clutches. Like, it is what it is. That's kind of what came out. But, other people, I've talked to Patrick about this plenty of times, but, temperature of what the female's been kept at, how important that is. Like, if you keep a female too warm all the time, you're always going to have issues with clutches. How accurate does that sound?
Anecdotal.
Yeah.
But like, for people who keep stuff warmer, right? Like, not on purpose, but I think one of the biggest things I learned this year, guys, for sure, and I probably should have known this a long time ago, but I don't fucking read whatchamacallit, temps off the goddamn herp stat no more. Like, I really temp gun shit. Like, I feel comfortable seeing temp gun temperatures versus what that fucking goddamn probe is saying.
Especially with heat panels, you can't. Yeah, the thermostat probe is going to be way off every time.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and mind you, like, this is my fourth year going into breeding chondros, and I'm starting to kind of really look into that side of how I'm keeping my stuff, and I feel like this year is the first year I'm finally like comfortable. Like, I know how I'm keeping the emeralds, I know I'm keeping the chondros, and I'm comfortable where they're at right now and all that stuff like that. But for instance, that without that adjustment, I feel like you could potentially always run into issues when it comes to trying to get a chondro to lay a clutch. And I was just I don't know, but I guess anecdotal. What is that word you're saying? I've heard it before, but I can't even.
Anecdotal. It just means
anecdotal. What the fuck? What is that? A fucking 1970 term? I've never heard of that before.
It just means we're making it up.
You're making it up?
No, it's a theory. It's a theory based on one or two or five observations, but no scientific study or evidence is there to support the theory.
Okay, now males having weak sperm, is that really a thing?
How do we even know?
Yeah.
This sucks. I'm trying to get answers, and we just can't fucking really like. I mean, I guess these are just all assumptions, and so I mean, mind you, these are just experiences I've heard from other people that I talk to, and whatnot.
Well, MJ, I can give you an anecdotal experience that I had with a male. I had a male, a 5-year-old male who locked up consistently with a female, just week after week, month after month. Just they locked up. After 15 locks, I quit even recording them. And over a period of months and months, she never went on to ovulate or produce eggs or anything like that. The following season, I bred her with a different male, and within 3 locks, she was gravid, ovulated, great clutch. So did he have weak sperm, no sperm? I don't know. I never bred him again.
I've got a pair this year that the female looks gravid already, and I've recorded 1 lock.
Yeah.
She's off feed, looking, swelling up. Can't say I've don't ever remember necessarily having a one and done pairing, but I know it's happened before.
I've had them. You
have? Yeah.
And that female's on schedule to go like around the same time that she's gone before, like, and everything's
first time. This is one of my army of holdback that I've been raising up. So this is first time trying her.
What's the pairing? Can you break down what the lineage?
Calico to Calico.
Wow.
Calico tiger stripe to it's a sib pairing, sib to sib.
Maxwell, you homer.
Offspring from Greg's animals. That's where I got my Calico stuff from. Was from Greg. So
can we kind of school people on the Calico line and everything, Greg? Because I don't think we've really tapped in too much and heard it from you on the show, and just kind of like what the Calico line means to you and whatnot.
Well, obviously it's a special line to me. I did not spontaneously produce the first animal. That came from Trooper Walsh.
Right.
Interestingly, the parents didn't look anything like that first Calico animal, male, the computer chondro. But I wanted to see if that trait was heritable. And so I bred him to his sister and produced Calico Jr. And, from there, it was just a matter of trying to find suitable females that were similar or would look like they would be, good matches. And, obviously doing some outcrossing, but at the same time trying to strengthen the project. And so, it's not something that, I'm like, how do I say it? I'm not like, that's my project. Nobody else can ever name anything, Calico. But I do genuinely appreciate and respect the people that, out there that stand up for, hey, that's a unique line and a unique trade, and we shouldn't just call anything, any of the unique projects, the Mr. Blue line or the Lemon Tree line, the
Right.
Calico line, the Mosaic line, that stuff's all stuff that people have put a lot of work into to try to strengthen and maintain. And so, that's kind of in a nutshell what it means to me.
And Marshall, a lot of the stuff you hold back is this Calico tiger stripe stuff, correct? Like this is like the foundation you're looking to just kill.
Yeah. I mean, those are the two bloodlines I have probably the most of right now, just because that's what I've been working with for the last, I don't know, 10 years or so. Has really been those two. The dad of these was an offspring from the Cal Jr. Daydream clutch, which was one of the last. Wasn't that was one of your last clutches that you produced before kind of getting out of chondros, right?
Do you remember what year?
I think it was 05.
Wow.
I got out of it in 09 or 010. So
okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was 10. It was Cal Jr. to Daydream. That was the pairing.
Yeah.
And
Daydream
I remember
that was on loan to me from the late
right.
Master.
Right. Yeah, I remember I had first pick of that clutch, and I picked the most plain looking one, and ended up being a great pick.
What snake was that?
She's on my Instagram. You'd have to go way deep in my Instagram, but
Still around though. She's still around?
No, she's not around. I had, I believe, 2 offspring from her that I kept. Dave D got one of them from when I bred her to Versace, and then I bred her to another. I'd have to go back and look at my records. I'm pretty sure I bred her to another chondro that I had on loan here that was named not Mr. Black. I think we were calling him Optimus Black. My buddy Andrew Kelly owned him and had him on loan here. And I produced a snake that Dave D got. And then I kept a male from that.
Wow.
Actually, Dave D's is Versace. Is Versace by Cal Jr. Daydream. And he's produced a lot of cool stuff from that snake, or at least a few that I've seen. Real high blue.
So this stuff pairing right now. This is something that's
that's the one. That's the only lockup. That's the only lock I've observed.
That's for who go ahead and name drop these 2 snakes.
They don't have names yet, but they're Calico Tiger Stripe siblings.
And these are Versace's kids?
No Versace in those.
No Versace in this.
Mm-mm.
Wow. Okay. And now Versace came from Greg. Correct me if I'm wrong, or no?
No, Versace came from Trooper.
Oh, okay. Shit. Fuck. Wow. Okay. And Versace's 23 years old, right? How old is he?
He's he's 01. So yeah, I mean he'll be 23 this year coming up, and still he's locked up right now, as a matter of fact.
Do you think that's a Guinness Book of World Record for the reptile world? I mean, that's
No, I think Mr. Blue lived to be 20 something years old and was still,
wow,
was still fertile, or was still going at it into his late age. So I don't know if it's a record, but it's got to be up there.
I'm glad this isn't a lineage episode, because you guys are failing miserably.
I know, I'm terrible. I'm terrible at it.
Patrick's rolling in his grave. I'm sure Mark.
Yeah.
Guys.
He's like, no, that was MM 1347.
Patrick threw his phone across the room. He's pissed. He went to go stretch. Honestly, I give you guys props for even remembering close to what you guys do, because after a while, it's like, and mind you guys are well off on productions, and so I mean, I don't blame you for not remembering shit right off the top of your dome. It's a lot to remember.
Especially Maxwell, he's produced more stuff than me and Marshall put together by a factor of how many, and a long time ago. So
yeah. Now, I mean,
I get people that email me fairly often asking for lineage information and photographs of parents, and gosh, I'm like, I don't even remember that clutch.
So Greg, as far as documentation keeping and all that, like that wasn't really like a necessarily must for you, or how did you keep records?
No, it was important to me. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I still have an old folder in my office stuffed full of old pedigrees and data cards and all that stuff. But
so if you wanted,
I kept most of my clutch and pair records on my website, and unfortunately a lot of that has been lost.
Wow, so the website got taken down or something?
Yeah, it wasn't really maintained, and I have a link that somebody sent me a long time ago from some archive site. And about a third of it's there, but almost all of what I used to do, I call them family portraits, and I would have a photograph of both parents, and then a picture of all the offspring and the hatch weight. And so that would be the most valuable to have those images right now, because that would have recorded, all that stuff, but don't have most of that anymore.
I would say, like, would you guys all agree, like, if you're seriously wanting to pursue the journey of breeding chondros, the type of shit that, well, I mean, don't know what it's like buying a snake from Marshall. He doesn't sell them, but I know from Bill Stiegel, he sends you the parents and all that stuff. Just kind of give you an idea what's in the snake, where it tracks from. Do you feel like that's something that's very important to do when it comes to doing this?
You asking me?
Any of you guys. It's for all you guys.
I always did that. Yeah, I feel it's really important. It's important on several levels. It obviously, just from an information standpoint, it's great to have that. But I also think it helps to, promote and build the legacy aspect of the hobby. It's like we're talking about tonight, where we've got animals that have been actively breeding for 10, 15, 20 years. And to know the history of that animal and some of the offspring that it's produced, I think that's, we always used to say the racehorse people did that. They keep all those bloodline pedigrees and, all of the results of that stuff. And that's what makes some of those animals so valuable. And so I think it's a great thing to do that.
I think that's what makes the dog, the dog breeding world so interesting, is because of those damn AKC and those pedigrees that they come with when you spend that $10,000 on that dog. You know what I'm saying? So it all makes sense. And I think it's just kind of organization comes apart with keeping chondros. Like you're going to be organized when keeping chondros, and if not, it's going to show, obviously. So
I think it's one of the things that really separates us from any other I'm not aware of any other reptile community that that keeps them as tight as we do, as far as lineage and history, and not only the animals, but the people that the people.
Yeah, because like if you come incorrect with some information, you have the people like Patrick or anyone who's right there, the fucking goddamn human book, who'd be like, you are completely wrong on that year, and that's not the right initial, whatever.
Well, the other thing when I say people, I mean, I think we really, continue to promote or give homage to the people that brought us to where we are now. The kind of the founding fathers, the generation really before Greg, that brought stuff into the U.S. and were the troopers and the Eugene Bissetts and Marshall and Greg know these people much better than I do because they're a generation or two even closer to those people than I am. But I'm always talking about and other people always talking about the founding fathers of chondros and into the United States, and I think that's again where we kind of separate ourselves from some of the other communities.
Now let's mentally put ourselves in a different timeline, Greg. All right, let's pretend we're in 2023, but you're only 23 years old. All right, we're talking you're on a fresh start, Greg, but you have all this knowledge still, and you want to go with chondros. So let's just say you're 23 years old, you have a house, you have the space to do whatever you want with the chondros. Would you consider working pure locality projects, or would you just go straight to designer work? Just curious the routes you would take as of right now in 2023.
Yeah, I've actually thought about that, like what would I do if I could go back, to the 70s or whatever, but still know everything I have learned.
Right.
And I would do both. I would have designer projects, but absolutely would have some locality projects. I had a pair of wild caught RHACS that I successfully bred. And, looking back over, the history of my working with the green tree pythons, that was one of the coolest clutches I ever hatched out.
All yellows, right?
All yellows. And I think I only got 6. But yeah, that was cool. And, I haven't really kept up in detail with, all the progress that's been made on locality green tree pythons. I'm assuming that a lot of that stuff is still the way it was when I was actively breeding, that it's difficult to get really accurate locality information. But when you can, and there's some specific traits, like obviously the RHACS and the BOC forms are island races, so they're geographically isolated and they have pretty recognizable traits. But I think that stuff's very cool. I mentioned at the beginning I'm working with a little group of Jasper County OKT corns, and you can go out and buy some absolutely gorgeous corn snakes that have no lineage available at all, and that's fine. But I've done some work to try to obtain some animals that come from people that I know actually collected the founder stock, like Howie Sherman and a few other people. And so I do have an interest in locality stuff that I would sure play into getting back into chondros if I was able to do that.
Now, a specific locality you would go with, would it be RHACS again, or would you maybe kind of dabble in something else?
Yeah, who knows? Whatever's available. RHACS for sure. I think they're beautiful. I always had pretty good success outcrossing BOC stuff to get high yellows. So I would probably pursue that too.
I heard they call that hybriding.
What?
I heard they call that hybriding. Hybrid breeding. I'm sorry.
Hybrid breeding.
Well, back in my day,
they were hybrids.
That's right. Yeah.
Go say that again, Greg. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that last part.
I said back in my day, they were all just chondros.
Right. I mean, but I going back to just epic times at a Bill Stiegel party. Shout to Ryan Young, but man, did that guy just have conversations with me that made me really think, like, am I a hybrid breeder because I'm doing
You
this?
are. Just own it.
And that's okay, huh? Like we
Yeah.
all
Dude, that's all I have is hybrids.
but why are Carpondros like so Gary is Gary? Wait, hold on. Is Gary our sponsor tonight? Is he a hybrid breeder? Because
He's not a hybrid chondro breeder, but he's a hybrid carpet breeder.
Carpet breeder. He
so
sure
why
is.
he so mean to the Carpondro people? I don't understand. Why can't you just let them?
Gary's just mean. He's just mean.
Jeez.
It's also very stuck up.
Yeah. That's why I like him, though. I'm not gonna lie.
He's a Swiftie.
Okay. But none of this was even a thought back then, Greg. Like, meaning outcrossing was like, go for it. Like, that was like, no one gave two shits about it back then, right?
Well, there were locality people.
Yeah.
But to be honest, a lot of it really wasn't verified, you know.
Right.
You know, we had locality names being thrown around, and some of it came from Indonesian farms where there was some credibility to it. But I mean, I interviewed Cameron. What's his last name? Anybody remember?
Tepedlin from I think that's how you say it, from Bushmaster, right?
From Bushmaster, yeah. I interviewed him for the second edition of my book, and we really kind of went into the weeds on like how legit is this, you know, locality stuff, because everybody was referencing Cameron as like the guy to get true locality stuff from.
Yeah.
And he told me all we're really doing is visually sorting the animals and attempting to keep stuff sorted by where it came from. But no, we're not like going into the jungle and recording GPS coordinates for where these animals are being collected from.
A lot of this shit's being pulled out of a hat, is what you're saying.
Well, maybe some of it was, honestly, yeah. But I think there was some of it that was legitimate. But when it came to domestic breeding here, you know, in the U.S., I think we were just trying to produce the coolest looking animals we could.
Right.
So it was. I don't think anybody considered, you know, outcrossing, you know, Arus to try to, you know, produce blue animals, or outcrossing Biox to try to produce yellow animals. I don't think anybody considered that hybridizing at the time. Now, you know, I understand science marches on, and those animals have now been classified as specific species.
Different species, yeah.
And I also think it depends on the person's like approach into the green tree pythons, because mind you, money's everything. Money's power. Like, so if you got endless fucking money, designers more likely going to be your first bet because of the looks. Like, you're gonna, you know, you being a new guy into the chondro game, if you could afford something that's on a designer level, you're more likely to go to the designer. Now, me,
it just depends though. Some people like Ryan Young, you know, he's locality.
How many Ryan Youngs do we have out there, Marshall? I'll wait.
One, just one.
Ryan Young's a unique case, my guy. Okay, we're talking on an average scale in today's world. People want the designer shit.
I mean, it's the eye candy. I don't think if localities looked the same, I would think those people would want localities. That's what it's always been about to me. Like, to me, the natural history and all that, I don't care about any of that. I want a snake that's going to look cool. If that means it's a pure Maniquari, then that's what it is. If it means it's a Calico, then that's what it is. I've always bred for what I think is going to look the best. It's going to look the most different. Is going to look, you know, basically the most different from a green snake. Whereas other guys will be like, oh man, I want to breed pure Sarongs just because I know they're both from this particular spot. And to me, I that just does nothing for them. I mean, nothing against it. That's why there's, you know, everyone's got their own reasons for liking this or that. But for me, if the animal's not visually appealing, the locality data doesn't make it any more appealing to me.
Well, I agree. You know, to go back to my corn snake example, if Jasper County Okie corns, you know, were gray, I don't think it would mean anything. It's
right. Yeah, you wouldn't want them.
Yeah.
Right.
And to go back to Marshall's point, I love the color change of green trees. I absolutely love it. And, the most boring pairing in ball pythons that I could do is a pied to a pied, because I know every baby's going to be a freaking pied.
Foundation, right?
But when I breed designer green trees, I've got 2 years to figure out what that baby's going to do. And every day I go out there and I pull that tub open, if it's an Aru to Aru, I know what it's going to look like. If it's a Manicory to Manicory, I know what it's going to look like. Maybe 10% variance, really nice one versus a not so nice one. When I breed these Frankenstein designer stuff, every day I go out there and open that tub, I'm just looking for that change that's just going to be something that's never been produced before.
Right.
And it's realistic
evil Dr.
time.
Bill over there.
Yeah, the mutt doctor. Hey. Now, what I was getting at though is, like, for instance, like, I came into this shit on a budget. Like, I couldn't. My first chondro was not a designer. It was a goddamn $275 Craigslist, import, yellow import. Still have her today, Mimi. But as I was learning about like localities, for me, it's about longevity, and I would like to have something tracked to where I started my shit from. And I feel like if you are on that same page and you want to have some sort of a history book start from where you're starting, I feel like that pure locality foundation is important to build off of, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why is Marshall's he's being stuck up. So whatever. No, I'm just saying, I love, one thing me and Patrick get along a lot about is the BX. I started with BX. BX is a powerful locality to have, like, as a foundation, I think, within any kind of green tree python collection. But I'm glad I know that, versus, because I know if I had money and I didn't give a fuck, I know how I would be. I would be getting straight designers. I would say I want the best of the best. But I feel like sometimes something shouldn't be overlooked. And I'm happy that I have a lot of locality shit. That's all I'm saying. But I also very blessed and happy I have designer shit too. So
yeah, you don't have to pick.
You don't, but do you? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Fuck, do whatever you feel is important, I guess, right?
That's right.
Right. Now, what's going to be important for you, Greg, when it comes to, I don't know, like, I know we all start with one snake, then we get two snakes, but where are we really heading at when it comes to you getting back into the chondro game? Like, what's the reality of that, like, ever being a thing again?
Yeah, the reality for me is space. I'm sitting here in my guitar shop. I have a guitar repair business, and my ball python room is in a finished room upstairs.
Right.
This building has a vaulted ceiling, so I can stand straight up in the middle of my ball python room, but if I go toward the walls, I have to duck. And my RHACS can only go up so high, because they're on the walls.
Right.
And that's the only space I have. Now, at some point, if I'm able to retire from the guitar business, I could potentially convert this, shop I'm sitting in right now. It's a 40-foot by 20-foot building with a forced air furnace. It would be a perfect reptile building.
Right.
Nice.
That's kind of the reason I got into the ball pythons, honestly, was just, for some retirement income.
Nice.
Now I hear you can't make any more money in ball pythons. So.
It all depends what you have. You don't have sunset, do you?
I do not. But yeah.
You have Ultramel?
Yeah. Oh, you said Ultramel.
Oh, Gary's out.
Gary's out. No, but yeah, go ahead.
It's for me. It's all about space. I literally have nowhere right now that I can put arboreal cages.
But okay,
I have to figure out what I'm going to do when my little animal from Bill outgrows the RHACS system.
Right. And one of the things I don't ask enough, and not that, because I always feel like it's a common thing, but I don't think it's as common. And I'm curious where, okay, another different scenario, that room is ready to be filled with whatever you want to fill it with. What would be your ideal cage sizing for a male chondro, an adult male chondro, and adult female chondro? Like, how would you go with the sizing for all those cages?
Well, what used to work well for me before was, approximately 24 by 24 by 3 foot long for males, or subadult females, and then move that up to, 40, 48 inches by 24 by 24 for females. I don't think there's a magic number. I think the most important thing is to be able to provide a gradient. You don't want to have a cage that's the same temperature, top to bottom and side to side. You want to give the animals a gradient. But those sizes seem to, work well for me. Some people I'm sure have success with smaller cages than that. Other people may use larger. That would probably be, if I was going to build a whole room full of cages or buy them, that's probably the direction I would think in.
You guys have to remember Greg Maxwell is the original Focus Cube.
He is the OG, right? What was the name of the company?
OG cage builder.
What was the
Cage
name?
Master.
Cage Master.
Cage Master.
Dude,
Hell yeah.
Wow. Man, I wish we still had that. I mean, shout out to Focus, it's gonna be wrong, but man, there's so many like nostalgic caging. Like I think Alex Warren, for instance, posted a picture of a nice white OG rack that he had, and I was like, man, those are sick looking. Like I see some old style caging like that, and I'm just wondering, like, man, whatever happened to stuff like that? And I'm curious with you, like, it was just hard to sustain and keep up, or how did something like that did it last to like for instance, how Freedom Breeder's been around since the 90s? Like how is that not that able to be like that?
Well, I'm sure somebody out there can correct me, but to my memory, I think Neotische was the only nationally distributed manufacturer of cages when I came along. And we started manufacturing the Cage Master line. And, I was only really physically able to sustain the amount of lifting and traveling and everything for about 5 or 6 years. I think in retrospect, if I had just been either the manufacturer or the distributor, it would have been a great business for two entities. But because I did both, I was really on a burnout pace. Prior to that, I had mostly made fine furniture, which was a very slow, one-off kind of, I'd work on one piece for 2 or 3 months. And so the cage thing started off as a side thing and just skyrocketed overnight. Ended up buying a big cube truck, started doing, regional shows and then national shows, and it just snowballed. And it was my first, really successful business, but of course I made a lot of mistakes. And I put myself on a burnout pace so that I really couldn't sustain it long term. I just was, we were making them out of melamine, and this was before, the advent of the injection molded plastics, like Vision and some of the other companies. And so they were extremely heavy. We used to build these 6-foot long Burmese python cages, and somebody would order 6 of them. We'd have to carry it up 2 flights of fire escape stairs. And, it was a killer business, just physically. And, long driving, I'm here in Ohio. My primary customer base was all up and down the Atlantic seaboard, basically from New York to Florida and, everything in between. And so it was a lot of driving, a lot of time away from home. And just, it was a great business, very successful, very busy. But it was tough to sustain.
Let's be honest, Bill. We see what fucking Ashley and Steven go through. They're workaholics. And guess what? No, I think if Ashley was hauling around melamine, she'd be jacked even more. I love Ashley. Go ahead.
I was going to ask Greg what I thought melamine was his primary component of those cages. I was going to ask him, but oh my God, can you imagine bringing big cages made out of melamine? You see what Steven and Ashley, a 4-foot or a 6-foot cage, or some of those chondro things they make. They're heavy as fuck. I can't imagine them being made out of melamine.
Yeah, we were cutting about 40 sheets a week, 4x8 sheets.
Unbelievable.
Dang, man, that's crazy. And what year was it when you made like the call to go ahead and not continue to make the cages?
I started that in, I think it was 1991 or 92.
Right.
And at the time, I was doing Don and Robbie Hamper's monthly reptile show in Columbus, here in Ohio, and also doing the Chicago show. There was a monthly show in Chicago. Chicago was always the day after Don and Robbie's show. And I did those two shows for a while, and then made the jump to, in 1993, going to Hamburg, Pottstown, Orlando, Richmond. And that's 93 is when it kind of really took off. And I sold the business in 96. Yeah.
96. What a time. Marshall, what were you doing in 96?
I was in college.
Concert.
So no telling.
Yeah. Now,
Not studying.
not studying. Now, Greg, obviously we're talking about like what you would do different as far as like directions you would go with localities and designers. But what about cage preference? Like, do you feel like ventilation is important compared to like, the amount of humidity, or like what's like your take when it comes to like a perfect cage for you as far as that goes?
I think one thing I would maybe adjust on an experimental level, I might not like it. I might go back, the way I used to do it. But I think I would look at humidifying an entire room rather than trying to maintain high humidity inside of individual cages in a drier room. So obviously there's a direct relationship between how much humidity a cage can hold and the amount of ventilation. And I think, you obviously want to avoid drafts, but good ventilation is important. You don't want a stagnant environment in your cage. There's so many cages that have come on the market since I've been out of it that I don't have any hands-on experience with. I always said, you can make anything work. If you understand the parameters of temperature and humidity and ventilation and how those all work together, you can make anything work.
Yep.
Some designs just make it easier than others. But I'll tell you, I don't know if Habitat Systems is still in business, but
Yeah, they're not.
No.
okay. That was one of the best commercially made arboreal cages I think I ever worked with. It was a
I don't have any of their cages, but all these racks, with the exception of this is a Focus Cube, back the one that's directly behind me. But all my other ones are Habitat Systems, and they're probably, I think I bought them in, I don't know, 03 maybe 04, and they all have internal heat tape. All of them still work. They're you can pick them up with one hand. Super light. They made great stuff. They made really good cages too. I never had any of them, but
yeah, I never personally owned any, but I helped a number of other people set theirs up, and so I was very familiar with how they worked. And boy, they were great cages. Held temperature really well, had a real good balance, between ventilation and holding humidity. They were made out of this kind of double-walled plastic that was hollow in between the two sheets, and they worked really, really well. And of course, they were made out of plastic, so you could hose them down. They never swelled up or.
They were super high end. Like in the day, they were, you'd pay 3 times for one of those that you would for the same, for different caging. Super high end, but I've heard, they were. But
mine are, like I said, mine are 20 years old, and they look just like the day I bought them, pretty much. So
right.
It was a good investment, I feel like.
Hey MJ, I had a question for Greg, and I don't mean to like.
No, please, no. Go ahead and take the floor. That would be great.
Any toes, but we have the guy on the premiere episode tonight that literally, wrote the book.
100%.
I have a lot of questions about the book, and
Sure.
I was just wondering if like Greg could maybe go back to like the foundations of the book. Like, why did you start the book? What pitfalls did you have? And I know you got some pushback from the book, right? I mean, it wasn't all just roses and everybody just, when it came out or you talked about coming out, you got some pushback. So maybe you could just tell us about the experience of writing that book.
Sure. Yeah. So a good buddy of mine, you guys may know him or remember him, Tom Phillips, He was a chondro breeder and a buddy of mine. We started a discussion forum called the Chondro Forum, and it broke off into several sub forums eventually. But the main forum was, called the Chondro Forum, Green Tree Python Talk. And honestly, the reason that we started that forum was because in those days, kingsnake.com hosted a whole ton of specific, species-specific forums. But it was unmoderated, and it was just constant drama and strife. It was very difficult to really intelligently discuss anything because you always had, people that, just to be blunt, they really didn't know what they were talking about.
So it's like
always
Facebook.
Trying to interject.
So it's like
Yes.
Facebook today.
Yes.
And so Tom and I, we said, let's start, a dedicated chondro forum that, is nice looking and well run. And, we're going to moderate it, not like drill sergeants, but, we're not going to let people come on and post BS, and we're not going to get into a bunch of drama and strife. It's about the snakes, and that's what we wanted it to be about.
Exactly.
So it was very successful. I don't remember how far into it. Not too long into it. We had our millionth click, or whatever the metric that's used for that is. But it really took off and was very popular for a few years. And after a while, it dawned on me that rather than answering these same basic sets of questions over and over and over, which we didn't mind doing, that's part of life on a forum.
Right.
I've participated in other forums just as a user, motorcycle forums and guitar forums, and there's always like the group of resident experts on any given forum, and sometimes they're like, we've been asked that question a million times. Just go look it up in the archives. Well, when you're an excited new person, in a new hobby or a new endeavor, you want to be on the forum to discuss things. You don't want to just get on there to be a purveyor of the index, and looking stuff up by the search engine. So, we were always very happy to answer the questions, but the same, you can come up with, the same basic 20 or 30 questions happen all the time. Caging, temperature, incubation, all kind of stuff. And so I thought, what if I put this stuff in a book so that there would be a reference tool? And of course we would still do the forum, and, happy to do that. But we have something out there, that people can have in their hands to, look up stuff and get good information. And so I shopped the idea of a manuscript around to a couple of different publishers. Can't remember the first one that I sent it to, but it's a herpetological publishing company. And I got an initial positive response from them. They asked me to send more information, which I did. And then I assume, like often happens with, prospective authors, they just eventually stopped returning my emails.
So did you have a manuscript at the time, or you were just
I basically had a table of contents and an introduction. These are the chapters. This is what I'd like to do with it. This is an introduction. And so then I was at the Pottstown, Pennsylvania show later that year. And so I'm taking a break from the cage booth and walking up and down the aisles. And I come across this table, and there's a little thing sitting there with business cards in it. And it said Bob Ashley, Eco Publishing, herpetological titles. And then they also did embroidered hats and shirts and stuff. And so I talked to Bob, and I said, I've got this idea for a green tree python book. And he said, yeah, that sounds interesting. And I said, well, I've got a table of contents and an introduction. He's like, yeah, when you get home, send it to me. So I did that. And he wrote me back and said, "This looks great. Let's do it." And so I started to work. That was the summer, I think, of 2002, because the book came out in 2003. And so I started writing. And of course, all those, months of all the forum posts and answering those questions made it very easy to write the book. It just kind of, flowed. And the photography for the book was a big issue, because digital photography was really not well established at that point. The pixel count on digital cameras was really not.
We're talking a whole nother era, when it comes to cameras and stuff like that.
Exactly. You try to do stuff in print and it looked grainy.
Right. Look like shit.
But I did manage to get my hands on, one of the latest generation digital cameras, and started doing some shots and printing them out. And I thought, these look pretty good. So Bob and I sent those off to his printing company and got approval to do the book with digital photography. So 95% of the pictures in the book are digital photography. There's a few prints in there that we scanned, some locality pictures that I got and stuff from other people, but most of it was digital. And so, we put the thing together. And when Bob saw the scope of really what I wanted to do and the amount of information I had, I think he had in his mind we were just going to do like a paperback, booklet type thing. And he was really excited when he saw the scope of it. So he decided to do a full, it was like 300 plus page hardcover with a dust jacket, which, of course, thrilled me to no end. And so interestingly, the first case of books from the printer was supposed to arrive at the, I can't remember if it was Orlando or if it had already moved to Daytona, but the big reptile expo there in Florida every year, supposed to get the first case of books. I had people that actually flew in from Europe to get a signed copy of the book, and there was a shipping mix up and the books didn't arrive. And that was one of the biggest disappointments of my life, because by this time, we've put, a year at least into this thing. And, you're so excited for the end product to be there, and it's going to be debuted at this big show. You got, people coming from all over the country to get it, and
right.
Even Europe and stuff. And so we ended up taking pre-orders at the show. And then, of course, they all arrived the day after the show ended. And so we spent a couple of weeks packing those all up and shipping them out. But it was very well received. Bob Ashley told me that title turned a profit for Eco faster than any book that they had published up to that point in time. So that was gratifying, because it's great to do something artistic and that you put your heart and soul into, but it's also really good when it makes money.
Did you have to put money into the project?
I'm sure.
Did you have to?
No, Bob funded everything.
Wow, that's cool.
I bought layout software and
sure, yeah, and
stuff. But I didn't have to financially support the book. Bob did that.
Wow, phenomenal.
Now, did you have expectations as far as sales goes? Like, did you have something that you had to, cover in order to make sure everything went well, or how was that?
I don't really remember. There might have been, a target number we had to hit, but I know he did an initial print run, and it sold out much quicker than what Bob had anticipated. So a year or two later, he approached me and said, rather than just reprinting this, let's do a second edition. And I was really, really happy that he wanted to do that, because, anytime you do anything for the first time, like I'd never written a book. I'd never done, the layout work and, gone through the editing process and all that stuff. You do something like that for the first time, I think immediately when the finished product comes out, you're like, this is really great, but boy, if I was going to do it over again, I would do this and this and this and this differently or better, whatever. So I got the chance to do the second edition with all those improvements in my head that I wanted to do. And then we did that, came out in 2005, and I think Bob told me they're just about out of print now.
I was going to ask. So, you know, new keepers, it's difficult to find that book now. I mean, you're not reprinting.
I think you can still. I think Bob still has copies of it available, you know, at Eco. But
are we talking about this book that I continue to clean house at every fucking NARBC? I have 6 of them that I'm looking at right now.
Yeah.
So, yes, we're talking about this book, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
the more complete Chondro.
You could get your hands on it if you go to a show, and if I'm not there. So yeah, that's
right. And I think you can still get him from Eco, but I know he has a limited number of copies left. And
right.
matter of fact, this is a world exclusive right here. Nobody knows this, but Bob has asked me about doing another book, and honestly, I'm not really sure
what to talk about.
Yeah, well, it's like I've been out of it now, you know, for over a decade. I haven't kept up on all the new breeders and all the new projects. So I'm not sure it's going to happen, but he is interested in doing it. And, you know, I'm probably speaking out of turn here because I haven't really talked to Bob about this in any detail, but I think it would be cool, you know, to do some chapters and, you know, interview people, you know, like Bill and Marshall and you, MJ, and, you know, a handful of other people, and just let you guys, you know, tell the stories of what's gone on in the last few years. Maybe do a chapter, you know, on what I would do differently. Everybody always asks me that. What would you do differently if you did it all over again? Answer some of those questions, that kind of stuff. So, you know, my issue is time. You know, the guitar shop keeps me extremely busy. I'm usually running 3 to 4 weeks turnaround time on new jobs that come in. I've got the snake collection that I'm dealing with to, you know, clean and feed. And we all know how, you know, that goes. So I really don't have a lot of extra time, and doing a quality book is very time consuming. It really is.
I have an idea for my chapter, if that's cool. Can I throw that out there?
Sure.
Not that good at breeding chondros, but my friends are. I would love to elaborate on all that, because I have friends like what we're right here in front of me who are really amazing at what we do. But honestly, no, that's an amazing idea, Greg, because it's like, you know, it's not like you ever fallen out with the love with chondros, but man, there's a big time out that you took from wondering who's doing what and finding out who's discovering what, you know, and who's doing like record-breaking numbers for their own collection and whatnot, and establishing more than 4 or 5 clutches a year. Like, those are important guys you should be talking to. A mayor chapter would be all over that shit. It'd be great. But man, that's a good idea right there. I'm not gonna lie, it's a really good idea.
So yeah, I'm not making any promises, but the idea's been floated. So, you know, we'll see.
Now, kind of getting back to, as far as, I don't know, like, everything right now is you buy something, you're thinking about breeding it. That's kind of like the 101 when you're in the reptile game right now. It's everyone's, no matter how much you love appreciating it for what it is, you're going to want to think about breeding. I can't really remember, Greg, what your take was as far as pairing up. Like, what was your ideal age for pairing up chondros, or what you like to go with? Or did you go based off like the looks or size or signs of what a female or male would do? If you could just break that down for me, that'd be great.
Yeah, there was a minimum age and a minimum weight. Honestly, it's been too long. I think it was 3 years old and 2,000 grams. Does that ring a bell with you guys?
2,000 grams.
Yeah, no, I think it was 1,000.
Was it 1,000? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, always had those minimum weight and minimum age, and then beyond that, you know, just how is the animal? Does it, you know, have good muscle tone? Has it had any previous health issues? You know, just that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and Bill and Marshall, your same take as far as your approach on a first time male or female, or, you know, let's say they're both the first timers. I mean, is it just kind of your gut feeling on how that animal looks, the size and all that, or do you like have a certain time or like an age, like a, you know, where like I rather just stick to this age, or like, how do you guys like to approach that? Whoever wants to go first.
Bill, go ahead.
I'm much more age than weight. In fact, I've never weighed a chondro in my life. A neo or an adult, or I've never weighed one. So I'm much more age specific than weight specific, and I'll give any male a try at 3 years old. The youngest female I've ever bred has been 4, and it's about 50-50. If they've got to look perfect for me to breed them at 4, I'd say about half the time I wait till they're 5. So I'm much more of an age person.
Yeah.
And I'm the same. Although my first clutch that I ever produced, the male was 18 months and the female was 3. So, I mean, it is possible. The males, I mean, it's not going to hurt to give them a shot, right? No matter how young they are,
Sure.
they're going to breed or they're not. But the females, I'm like you now, 5 years is unless they're just, like a monster feeder. You have those snakes that just are very robust and very, it's the word I'm looking for. Robust, I guess, is the best word. They're just tanks.
Early bloomers.
That's right. That's right. And maybe you'd go 4, on something like that. But for the most part, it's 5 or, maybe even 6. And the size thing or the weight thing, I haven't weighed anything and it's been years and years, but the 1,000-gram thing, I think has been proven pretty much. There's not a ton of females nowadays that get to that size anymore. I maybe have, I don't know, I maybe have 1 or 2 adults that are 8, 9 10 years old that are at 1,000 grams. And especially, I think when you get into the locality stuff, some of them are, I think I heard Nick Mutton say when he was on the show a few weeks ago, 350 to 400 grams was like, an average size that you would find them in the wild for an adult.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it's not the first time I'm hearing this, because, in a sense, there are animals in captivity that are a size, right? But do they need to be that size? That's what we need to ask ourselves. And
my females are so variable. I've got some females now. Ryan Young will tell you that all of my females are way too big.
Same here.
But I keep and feed them all the same, and I have some females that weigh 3 times what other females weigh. It's just based on their size, I mean, it's how they were meant to be. I feed them all the same way, mostly on the same schedule and under the same environment. And some of them just get big, and some of them don't.
Now, any kind of food cycling that you stuck to, like as far as with your females or anything like that at a certain time, Greg, or was it just always same schedule feeding 24/7?
I would try to feed my females more heavily beginning in late summer, just to, make sure they were fully conditioned and, provoke good egg follicle development. But in general, I fed on a pretty normal schedule year round.
Was there ever a period where you don't feed your females at all?
No.
Okay. What about you guys, Marshall, Bill? Anytime, is there like a shut off period where there's no feeding, like a little bit of a fasting for your chondros, your females?
No, not for me. I've always, I've never been a big on food cycling. I mean, I pretty much feed at the same schedule year round. For me, it's way more temperature related. I don't really ramp up or down the food. I mean, unless I'm like, the only time that I don't feed is if, like we're going on a planned vacation and I know I'm going to be out of town for 5-6 days or, a week or whatever. And I don't want to come home to a mess, or I want somebody just to be able to come and kind of poke their head in the room and not have to clean anything. I'll stop feeding for 4 or 5 weeks, let everything clean out, and then feed them, a couple days before I leave. Other than that, though, I pretty much feed on a pretty regular schedule. I mean, adults every 2 to 3 weeks, and babies just depends on how big they are. Generally, the smaller the snake, the more often they get fed.
Yeah, so like Benny Bender was saying, if you're on a fish tour, fucking concert, goddamn goer thing, it doesn't hurt you to not feed them for a couple weeks or whatever. Like that,
right?
That bother you?
No, not at all.
MJ, I've just recently, within the last few years, started to food cycle my animals, and it's really when I noticed, and maybe it's coincidental, that my production exploded. So, again, I think if you ask any chondro keeper that food cycles, you ask them how they do it. If you ask 10 people that do it, you'll get 10 different answers.
Yeah.
And so I'm like Greg. In the summer and the late summer, I make sure the females are well conditioned. I feed a little heavier. Than
so what does that mean? Are you feeding them more often? Are you feeding them bigger meals? What do you like?
Yeah, I mean, pick your poison. Usually it's a little more often. I might feed them once every 10 days. I might feed those females once every 10 days, but I want them to be really not obese, but I want them to be really meaty looking, going into that early fall period. And then I fast them 8 to 10 weeks. And during that fast, that's when I'm starting to drop the temperatures. I changed the light cycle in the room from 12 hours on, 12 hours off to 14 hours off and 10 hours on. So while I'm starting the temperature cycle and light cycle, I start my food cycling. And so 8 to 10 weeks, the females are not getting fed, nor the males really, are maybe just very small meals. And that's when the locks start to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And they happen pretty consistently, and they happen quick, usually pretty quick. And this is when I've seen a couple of the, one and dones or two and dones. And then after that 8 to 10 weeks of not feeding, then I'll start to reintroduce the female. This is usually for me in February. Small meals, at short intervals. Let them know there's a readable food source, and then a lot of times they'll ovulate very quickly.
Yeah, it's fun. There was Marshall. It's funny you say that, the whole 10 different answer things, because I just feel like so many people have different scenarios on why and how they keep their animals the way they do. Obviously demographically or whatever the case is, but it's really hard to fucking compare your shit to everyone else's. You know what I mean? So more likely you're always going to get 10 different answers when it comes to shit like this, I feel like.
I think the food cycling is just, it tells them do something different is happening. Right. So you could feed them sparsely before you pair them and then feed them heavily. I mean, it's just like, tell them something is different. It's just like temperature, right? You're telling them something is different. Something is changing now. And so I think food cycling you could do it lots of different ways successfully. I just personally, and again, MJ, anecdotally, have noticed it since I've introduced food cycling in with temperature cycling, that my production has gone off the chart.
Now, speaking of productions going off the charts, you and Buddy have a collaboration that you do every year, right? Like you have some sort of collaboration with the homie Buddy Buscemi.
Well, we're 1 for 1.
1 for 1. Oh, that was your first time?
That was our first time last year. We're doing it again this year.
How do you know where I was going to go with that? Dang it.
What we maybe going to talk about, like breeding loans, or
what were we just talking about right now before this happens once an episode? I'm sorry, Greg, for
food cycling.
Food cycling.
Production.
Gone. It's never mind. Let's just forget about it. No, I got to ask you, one of the things that we were talking about on the Traps Giving, Greg, and I'm not sure if you're around for it because, like you said, like I said, you hung out as long as you could that day, but Socrates was talking about his production not being up to par with him because of the fact that his water filters were due to be changed and he didn't remember, and basically was giving his snakes like not clean enough water, and that had something to do with his production. Now, I'm curious what the water you guys went with back in the day. Like, was it just tap water, straight tap water, or like what water did you guys feel comfortable using back in the prime days of keeping chondros?
I lived in a very rural area, so we had a well, and the water in my area tends to have a lot of iron, so we used a water softener, and I just used water right out of the tap, that we use to shower and eat and cook.
Right.
That's what I used all through the chondro years. Where I'm at right now, I'm actually just only a few miles from the house I lived in back then. But we have reverse osmosis water here.
What's that?
It's a filtration process. It passes through some cartridges and then through a very fine membrane, and it takes out almost all of the
Particles and whatnot.
Particles, impurities.
Almost like distilled water or something, right?
Even a step above, it's like when it comes out, it's just pure H2O, and that's it. Enough with nothing else.
Well, my understanding of distilled water is that it's chemically or it's electronically charged to remove minerals or something. I know you're not supposed to drink it because it can really damage you long term. Distilled water, whereas reverse osmosis is very healthy water.
I see.
But anyway, I use RO water in all of my rat water lines because it's so clean that you don't get mineral deposits on the water valves, and then they don't clog up and leak.
Nice.
And I use it in my ball python water bowls now for the same reason. The bowls don't get all lined with salt residue or calcium or whatever. So I use RO water now for everything.
I'm tired of those water spots. I really am. I'm sick of them, to be honest. I hate them.
I got them all over the inside of my cages.
Fucking Bill. I just, because I like seeing through shit, and with the Cambros, shout to Focus. I love my Cambros, but my Cambros are the ones, if I spray the shit out of it in there, it's a bunch of water spots, and I see it right here, and I like to just see right through those water spots. But I also think I always want to do best. So, if I could level up in any way, I should want to do that. And I just know that I feel like I'm ready to just maybe go with the RO route and just give my snakes fresher water if I can. But at the end of the day, it's like you said, I've been giving tap water to my snakes for 7 years. I don't have a regular snake dying problem or anything like that. Everyone, drinks the water I give them, and so it's also like, what's not broken, why try fixing it too? So I don't know. That's why I'm just curious on that.
I've always just used straight up tap water.
Yeah,
me too.
Yeah, I mean, if it's good enough for us, I think it's good.
Yeah, I grew up drinking out of the hose, and I fucking lived. I'm here. You know what I mean? Fuck.
Listen, MJ, on the Thanksgiving show, I said, I go through a shit ton of water in my steak room. I cannot imagine using RO water or
bottled waters.
Bottled water. Are you freaking kidding me? There's no way.
All that plastic, you're a piece of shit. Look at all that plastic you're using in bottled water. I mean, I'm just kidding. I've seen people literally with a room, like they have a closet stacked full of water bottles, and that's.
I typically use 5 to 6 gallons a day between the snake room and the rodent room.
It's a lot of water. You know what I mean?
It's to fill up every water bowl in this room is about 20 gallons. Yeah, that's basically, when my son and I when it's water bowl day, we're in here and it's 4 trips with the 5-gallon bucket outside to dump it. By the time you do it all, and then the rodents, geez, I don't even know. I use 5-gallon buckets out there too because I'm scared of having a massive flood. But right. Even if one of my racks is like, just jam packed full, 5 gallons will last, it's 2 or 3 days at least. Right. And sometimes I don't have to fill them up for a week. But I've got 4 or 5 gallon buckets out there that I would say I fill up probably at least once a week. And if a rack is crowded, maybe twice a week.
I thought you have a sink in your room.
I do, but I don't like when I'm dumping dirty water bowls. I don't like dumping that dirty water down the sink. I just take it outside and dump it.
Yeah.
That way, if anything's got back, whatever. I don't want dirty water splashing all over everything. So I'd take that water and dump it outside.
You know, I'm glad you said that, because one of my biggest, like, you know, when I moved into this house, I thought I had everything fucking mapped out where everything was going to fit, but definitely the sink wasn't going to fit. And I was a little bummed out, but man, do I make a mess. Like, I make a mess when it comes to putting shit in that sink, and that sink is right outside the building. And I'm happier with that, because now I'm like, well, I throw all this water out and it's like old water and shit like that. I kind of wouldn't want that in this room. You know what I mean? Because like you said, overflow, spillage, and like, you know, stuff just sitting in the sink, like over, like residue and stuff like that, that could just, you know, fuck that. So that's why, good call. Like, I'd much rather have my shit outside, to be honest. It's a safer bet.
I do the same thing. I dump all of my snake water bowls into a 5-gallon bucket and then take it outside and dump it.
One thing I thought I was like a step ahead of, because I was like, man, when I just had COVID recently, and man, talk about fucking mental breakdown. I thought I was thrown in the white towel. And so everyone who's had COVID knows that you get this burst of energy. Like, you just feel like you feel good at certain moments. And so I felt great. And I was like, I'm going to go to work in the snake room. And I was remembering how, like, you know, I take trips. Like, what I'll do is I'll empty the water dishes into a bucket and throw that out. But then I'll take trips to my sink and fill up each water bowl individually. Sounds like a lot. But then I was like, I have a hose right here. Why don't I just drag the hose and just You know how much water I had on my floor after I fucking did that? Worst thing, worst fucking idea. I thought I was on to something, because I thought, man, I'm going to save myself like 30 minutes. But no, I didn't. I've
tried it too. It's a mess.
Stupid.
No, man, you're using the wrong thing. You got to use a different attachment. That's how I fill up all of mine.
Bro, there's more. I had options. I used every option, and nothing was coming out smoothly. Water was going everywhere.
Send us a link, Marshall, for your magic attachment.
I'm just thinking, like, man, fucking just like, you know, slipping on that shit. I'm talking like just stuff that is not worth going through when trying to just clean your rat or try and clean your snakes. I don't know, but man, listen, I have a wrap-up topic. If you guys do me a favor, Marshall, Bill, while I drop this wrap-up topic or a question for Greg, think of one for me. That'd be great if you have one. All right. Greg, my wrap-up question for you. Okay, buddy. If you were to give any type of, like, I don't know, what's your call? Where do you really feel like the chondro? I know you're just now coming back into things and whatnot, but where do you really feel like the chondro game is headed? Popularity wise, we know that it's a real popular animal. People want it, but do you feel like this will become more of a, like, less people suck at it and more people are good at it type of thing? And it's going to grow with time and become, you know, maybe not as big as ball pythons, but maybe a run for the money type thing in the future. What's your take on that?
I think the difficulty of the animal is always going to limit who is willing to, you know, put in the time and the learning curve to be successful with them. You know, Trooper Walsh always used to have a saying, and he taught me early on, chondros aren't for everybody.
Amen, brother.
And so, you know, now some people, I think, used to take that the wrong way and thought we were making some kind of an elitist statement. No, chondros could be for anybody. They just aren't for everybody.
Right.
What we mean by that is, you know, they're not a ball python. You know, they're more delicate. They have more narrow husbandry parameters and cage environmental parameters. You know, when it comes to breeding, you know, it's a whole nother level of difficulty and challenge. So I think that's always going to be a limiting factor for, you know, who's just willing to do that. And, you know, it's always the passion for the animals that keeps you in that and gets you through the lows. You know, working with chondros is always going to have incredible highs and incredible lows.
Yeah.
And all there is to it, you know, like Bill with half his clutch prolapsing, you know, and then the difficulties you've had, MJ, that kind of stuff is just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And, you know,
so you got to get over it, right, Greg? Like, you have to get over it.
You have to get over it. Yeah. And if you get into it just for the money or because chondros are the coolest thing anybody could do, so you get into it to be cool, you know, that's not going to carry you through the difficult times and the low times. So, you know, I think, you know, this is probably the most exciting time ever to be involved with green tree pythons, just because there's so much good information and so many types of media, I mean, we would have killed back, when I was a breeder, to be able to send somebody a video of how to feed a baby green tree python, but so, with YouTube and all the different avenues that are available, Patreon, there's just so much information, so much support and help. There's no reason for someone to not have success with green tree pythons unless they're just unwilling or don't have the right temperament to, and I've had people tell me, I'm just not the right person to work with those. And I respect that, because you have to know yourself and know what you're good at, what your strong points are, and what your weak points are. And so, I think it's a great time. I think the future of green tree python keeping and breeding is very bright from everything I can see. But no, I don't ever think they're going to give ball pythons a run for their money as far as just sheer quantity of breeding and share of the marketplace.
Or the morphs.
Yeah.
No, man, but you're right. A friend of mine who's always had the one-liners that always stuck with me. And he told me when I first had my chondro clutch, he's like, dude, just so you know, man, he's like, I know this clutch doesn't look good, but like prepare like for worse things than this. And just know that like, this isn't for the weak-hearted. Like you have to not be emotionally weak when going into this. Because you're not gonna last. You're gonna fucking, and because it's a lot to deal with. And like if you hold on to emotions and like can't let things go, oh my God, you're gonna have problems at home. You're gonna have problems at work. You're not gonna have a good time in life. So that's why, like you said, respect to that person who owned it and said, I don't want nothing to do with this, because it's a lot. It's hard to deal with. But anyways, all right, who wants to go next?
Well, I'll kind of just ask Greg, kind of a follow-up question to what you just said, MJ.
Sure.
Greg, you said the chondro game is nothing but a series of highs and lows. You had a phenomenal career with green trees. Can you tell us like maybe one of your highest highs and one of your lowest lows?
Nice. I like that.
Yeah, sure. I probably experienced one of my biggest lows the very first season I tried to breed. I paired the computer chondro with his sister, who was a female named Aqua Girl. And I think I told you the story, MJ, on another podcast of how those snakes got their names. It was the file names of images when I was putting together my first website. So it's kind of funny, the name stuck. But it was the first clutch that I experienced, and I was using maternal incubation. And of course, I was just so excited, to get the eggs, and the female was in the nest box and coiled all around them like she was supposed to. And I was maybe 3 weeks in or so. I noticed an odor coming from the cage and the nest box. And so I kind of poked around a little bit, and what I saw in between the coils didn't look very good. So I went ahead and started to peel her off, and the whole thing was just brown and wet and rotten.
Oh,
and
shit.
That just, I had no success behind me at all. So immediately you start to second guess everything you've done for the last year. Did I, temperature's wrong? Was the male wrong? Was it the wrong water? Wrong cage size? It had to be something I did wrong, right?
Right.
And,
Always.
Yeah. And so that was an extremely low experience for me. And, over time, that kind of stuff is never easy. I mean, you never get to the point where you go, oh, a highly desirable prized clutch is rotten. Oh, well.
Yeah.
It's always heartbreaking, but at least you kind of, learn to deal with those losses and emotions the same way you did with the highs. And, I would say, one of the biggest highs for me was the day that I hatched out Calico Jr. Because I did a repeat pairing with that same pair and got a successful hatch. And he was the first real dark brown, almost black, solid, patternless.
Patternless. Yeah, I remember that.
That I'd ever seen. Maybe somebody had some before that, but I'd never seen one. I didn't even know that existed. And yeah, when he came out of the egg, I was like, "Holy cow! This is gonna be something."
I had a couple of those this year. Oh yeah.
Oh, couples, you son of a bitch. Yeah, right.
I'm telling you, man.
Dude, you killed it.
Nothing better.
Yeah, man. But honestly, you kind of have to earn that feeling, right? Like that feeling just isn't going to be put on a fucking platter, even though some people have had luck like that. I mean, Bill, we've all remember your first clutch was a breeze, right? Like you had a lot of great luck your first clutch, and then what you said the next couple after that was a nightmare.
My second clutch was terrible. I mean,
yeah,
it's just all like Greg alluded to. It's just all over the board, unpredictable. That's the beauty of it. To me, just so unpredictable. And even after, whether it's your first year keeping or your first year breeding or your 10th year breeding, it's always unpredictable, and that's what I love.
It's all about the highs and lows, right? I mean, at the end of the day, yeah.
But Greg's right. The more you do it, the more you can let go of the, you can celebrate the highs, but try to never get too high. But you can let go of the lows.
Yeah,
easier than that first year, because let's face it. After a certain time, if a Neo doesn't eat, all the tricks. You've established 100 of them, and
Yeah, you've known you did everything you could do.
You've done everything you can do. Your first clutch, you think it's all about your failure.
Right.
When the baby doesn't eat, you think, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah, but there's no getting to the high point without working through the lows. Like you have to plow through the lows. You get to the highs, and that's what makes it so fucking all right. I want to stay in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very rewardful. But Marshall, what you got for Greg?
So you've obviously done a lot with green trees, and now you've moved into working with ball pythons. Just kind of compare and contrast. What did you like about chondros that you're not getting from the ball pythons, and vice versa?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I got into ball pythons, the word was these things are so much easier than chondros, and they're not. at least from my perspective. Now, part of that is because after doing chondros for so many years, I'm just really dialed into them as a species. Like when I got these little neonates from build, it wasn't like, what am I doing? It's like getting right back on the bike. It was like I never quit.
Awesome.
And so, I'm really dialed into them as a species, as it makes it, easy for me to think that they're, something that, obviously they're challenging, but the ball pythons, I'm enjoying working with them. I've got 35 in my little group, and the first ones I got a couple of years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. So I feel like I'm just now really starting to get dialed in, to what they're like and their, different moods and cycles. And I'm not even breeding them yet. I may have a couple of females ready this winter, but the non-feeding thing with me, is like the biggest difference. Like, chondros are difficult to start, but once they're started, man, just like you can go through them in a half hour. It's like bang, 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 bang.
Badasses.
Pythons, well, what are you going to eat tonight? Frozen, fresh, killed, live, ASF, or none of the above?
Right.
And I've gotten used to it now, so I've kind of accepted it. But like on any given night, I just anticipate I'm going to have 10 or 12 animals that aren't going to eat, and some of them are the same, like they go on several weeks of fasting, or even a few months.
Yeah.
They'll eat great one week and not eat the next, but that's been a little bit of a frustrating thing for me to learn to roll with.
Greg, can I ask you real quick? Is it is it the adult ball pythons that are not eating for you, or is it more the hatchlings that are not eating for you?
No, it's the famous 1,000-gram wall. This female's
Oh, that shit. Okay.
900 grams, and then like bang, it's like they don't want to eat anymore. And it's just like just when you're starting to get them to, where they're approaching breeding size, and like, oh yeah, this is gonna be great. They don't eat for 3 months.
Yeah. How old are a lot of these snakes that are 1,000 grams? Are they like 3, 4, or how old are they?
Most of them are about 2 years old right now.
Yep.
Nice.
It's classic. Typical.
I mean, listen, here we are. Here I am bitching about not being a good chondro, or not, I'm just saying, going through the struggles of breeding chondros, and my man's going through the struggles with breeding ball pythons. This is great. I love
it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, that's the biggest difference for me, is the different feed response. Ball pythons I think they're a lot more work. They're a lot more work to clean, and
physically 100%. Way more work.
No doubt.
Physically, because mentally they're not as cool as a chondro, so it's fucking boring sometimes. Sorry, Greg. No, but I get you, man. And what's awesome though, what you just don't see this kind of scenario in a sense. Right now, it's all about motherfuckers just coming from the ball python game and they go elsewhere. But here we have someone who wrote the book on chondros coming back into the game, working ball pythons. But it's cool to hear this from, you don't hear this a lot. You know what I'm saying? So awesome shit, Greg. And 2 hours went by too quick. And like I said, man, nobody can get enough of Greg Maxwell. So I know there will definitely be another Greg Maxwell Trap Talk episode for sure. But we just had shy of 100 people in at one point tonight. So what do you like to say to all the Greg Maxwell Reptile supporters, your people who love your book, just everyone out there rooting for you, Greg? What do you have to say to all your supporters out there?
I love all of you. I really appreciate the support, over the years and now. And keep on keeping on with the passion.
Yeah, man. Back at you. Appreciate you so much. Greg Maxwell Reptiles on Instagram. That's the best way to just be on top of whatever you have going on with your own projects and whatnot, right, Greg?
Yeah, I'm not breeding, right now, so I don't have a ton of content, but I post pictures of my snakes and sometimes frogs and spiders and other cool stuff I find. Yeah.
Bitchin', man. Well, listen, do us all a favor, Greg. Enjoy the rest of your night. We all appreciate you. That's a fact.
Appreciate you guys too.
Yeah, man. But guys, do me a favor. Give it up for our man, Greg Maxwell, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good night, Greg. Thank you so much, buddy. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you, MJ.
Catch you next time, Greg.
Greg.
I'll see you, Marshall.
Later, buddy. Legendary. Great episode, man. Good questions from both of you, but great time. How do you guys feel? How do you feel about the first episode of this segment that we're launching?
It was great. Had a great time.
Couldn't have
I
started.
hope everybody liked it.
Yeah, couldn't have started better with Maxwell's a class act, a great guy, just a solid part of the green tree community, like so many other people.
I like how genuine and straightforward he is too. Like it's like that right there is when you could really kind of grasp information from somebody who just isn't scared to say how it is. You know what I mean? And it's crazy, like you said. Like I think about I don't know if he had pressure, but coming out or having the balls to write the book when no one really else was doing it. Come on, you got to give that guy props for that big time. And look where this book has taken the whole industry.
Yeah.
Like that fucking book is tits, man. But yeah, guys, thank you so much. I had a good time tonight. Guys, Red Mountain Herps on Instagram, Marshall Mendez, and then my man, the mayor of Chondrotown, Bill Stiegel, Phoenix Reptiles. Before we let you guys go, Marshall, what would you like to say to all the love and support that we had on tonight's show?
Man, thanks for tuning in. Hope to see you guys again soon. There's so much there's so much to talk about with chondros. We didn't even kind of scratch the surface of things tonight. So I'm looking forward to getting other people on. And even though I've been doing this for a while now, I'm still learning stuff every day. And looking forward to hearing what everybody else has to say too.
Yep. Bill, what do you got to say, man? Listen, you're a co-host of a show, your little brother, and your mentor. This is quite the dynamic right here. This is great.
Yeah. It's awesome. I'm just looking forward to many more Tuesday nights. These same seats with, like Marshall said, different people,
Yeah.
And like you said, every single one of these episodes, I learned something. And man, I'm just looking forward to it. There are so many people that I want us to have on your show, MJ. That
I'm blessed. I'm so blessed. Thank you. Because by the way, we're working on a fucking iconic lineup, just so you guys know. We're gonna bring you guys some crazy next level type scenarios like tonight was, okay? But now we have real experience. Like I said, guys, I love it. I'm passionate, but I can only speak on it so much. When it comes to you guys rolled up your sleeves and put in the work, and you have results to speak on all this. And I feel like people speaking who have results is really important to a lot of these conversations, you know, because there's many times where I have someone on and I would love to ask your guys' opinion because you've been there, you know, and I'm still wet behind the ears in a sense. So I feel like this is good for not only the new people, but the people who've been around, like the people like Marshall Menezes who just stay low and just do their thing. They like to hear this shit, but they like to hear from OGs. And so I appreciate both of you guys. And Bill, always appreciate you.
Hey, listen, MJ, I'll just say one last thing. This is very reminiscent of when Buddy and I started GT Keeper Radio over a decade ago now. At the time, I was you. Okay. we wanted to have me on because I had a huge level of interest. I was relatively new, and you know, he was very experienced, but he thought that I would be able to ask these, you know, the guests that we brought on questions that he wouldn't even think about asking. You know? So listen, man, this is just brings back a lot of like memories, you know.
Yep.
From a long time ago.
And I will say, you know, because listen, the mayor is at a point where if he has to travel, he's going to travel. Motherfucker does what he does. So if there's a Tuesday night where Bill's not around, best believe Amazon tree boas, me and Marshall, we're going to attack the shit out of that. Oh, we're going to attack the shit out of that. But hey, don't you worry, man. Maybe some carpets. I'm just kidding.
I'll be in the audience for that one, guys.
Yeah, you have to get Gary the hybridizer on for that one.
The hybrid king. Guys, do me a favor, give it up for my two co-hosts, my two dogs, Marshall Mendez and Bill Stiegel, ladies and gentlemen. All right, guys, enjoy your night. Thank you so much. See you guys.
Peace.
Peace.
Love it.
Great episode. What a great first episode for the All Up in the Tree Tuesdays. That was awesome. I'm going to re-listen to this one for sure because I'm a fanatic of the chondros. Forever passionate, forever in love with this species. And it's cool that we have something like this to all come together and just geek off this stuff, man. Like Marshall said, we barely skimmed the surface of information that needs to be talked about, dive deep on when it comes to chondros, arboreals, all the stuff in the trees, man. So if you enjoyed tonight's episode, please hit the like button. The likes could be, it's Greg Maxwell. Can we get the likes up for Greg Maxwell? We had about 92 people at one point tapped in. So if I could get 90 likes before you guys leave, that'd be great. Get the likes up. Greg Maxwell, he's a G. And get the likes up for the mayor, Bill Stiegel. Get the likes up for Marshall Mendez. Get the likes up for the Trap. Hit that subscribe button. I'm almost at my goal at 10,000 subscribers. That's a huge goal of mine. So definitely, if you enjoyed tonight's episode, hit that subscribe button for me. It's a free feature to hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. You'll be on top of every single podcast. Forgot to mention, if you're looking for exclusive content, if you want to get more out of what you see here on each episode, if you want to get more behind the scenes, don't hesitate to join the Trap Talk Patreon family. Come join the Patreon family. Very first link in the description below. As soon as you join the Patreon family, you get a link to the Discord that will tap you in with over 185 trappers in the Discord. You also get connected to the IG group chat that's cracking. Every Sunday, we get together with my big dog Emilio for the V Unit Trap Talk Zoom call Sunday parties. It's all fucking lovely. It's all great, man. It's all growth. So shout out to all my players out there who are growing, everyone out there who's having a good time doing what we're doing, everyone out there who's keeping it about the animals, because guess what? It's all about the animals, man. So again, thank you to everyone out there who has just given this channel the time of day. Don't forget, big things popping the rest of the week. I got tomorrow off, thank God. I'm going to kick with my buddy Mark Bailey. But holy shit, guys. One of the biggest episodes to hit the Trap Talk platform this year for sure. My man, Brian Barczyk. If you really want to get an insight of what's going on with Brian, like, you know, like a deep dive into what the current situation is, what the plan is, and all that other good stuff, don't miss the episode I'm going to have with him this Thursday, 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Back-to-back Trap Talks Thursday, all right? Not playing. So Brian Barczyk Thursday, 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Then we're going to have my buddy, good old Brian Cusco, Triple B TV. Cannot wait to catch up with my buddy Brian. Look up to him a lot. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for the love and support. Thank you for coming here for my boys. I had a good time, but that's a wrap for episode 418. Have a good night. I'll see you here Thursday. And I'm out. Cheers.